Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. Today is October 1st, 2024. We start a new month. We get together most weekday mornings and talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories. At the core of what we're doing is helping build financial literacy, helping small businesses understand what does it take to have a fundable business. And that's maybe that sounds very simplistic, but it's a remarkable need. It's a remarkable gap in the marketplace. There are many, many small business owners that want to need money to start, to grow, to reach their potential. But what most of them don't have is what you and I can provide them, which is legally and ethically how to have a fundable business. Because when we apply for business funding, we're not talking about consumer, when we're talking about business funding, we need to meet the underwriting criteria. So we call that being fundable. So that's with our outline here, that's a key point. If we want money to start or grow a business, we must have a fundable business. Now, simply said, but the problem is most entrepreneurs do not know what you and I know. They don't know it. They don't know what it means to have a fundable business. So a big part of what you and I do is we educate them. We don't sell them, we educate them. What does it mean to have a fundable business? We also assess their current business to determine is it fundable or not. And so we have a very simple assessment that gives them a score between 0 and 6, 0 being low, 6 meaning high, which is what it takes to be fundable. That's really our primary role of our distribution partners, like most of you and us here, is to assess the fundability of businesses. And that's really the best way to teach them, is to match the criteria to what they have in place, and anything that they don't have, we need to resolve. So then that brings us here on the outline to the whole buy or build equation. And as we've talked about before, you could own a restaurant. Let's say that you had a passion for pizza. I love pizza. Who doesn't love pizza, right? So we're going to make pizzas at our restaurant. Well, we're going to need crust. Do we want to make our crust, or do we want to buy crusts that are already made? It's called the buy or build decision. And it's a very common decision that's made in most business models. Do we want to create something, or do we want to buy it already created? Well, as of yesterday, we rolled out the shelf corporations, and we had a training on it yesterday. And it's gone remarkably well, because I believe that the typical small business owner does not want to build a fundable business, because it takes some time and it takes some effort. Now, we can help them, and we have what's called the 4-week business funding program. So we can certainly help them build a fundable business. But all things being equal, what we're finding is the typical entrepreneur would rather buy a business, as far as a shelf corporation, that's already fundable. So that's what we rolled out yesterday, and it's gone remarkably well. So we're going to revisit that today and make sure that we're answering questions, comments, concerns that any of you have. If you do have a question, comment, or concern, you'll type that into the Q&A. And I see Corinthian on. She's one of our clients. She bought one of the shelf corporations yesterday. So what does that do for Corinthian? It allows her to skip the normal process. It allows her to skip the normal amount of effort and expense, and then immediately have a fundable business. So welcome, Corinthian. Thank you for joining us this morning and being one of our testimonials. So when it comes to the topic of fundability, you need, in my opinion, you need to approach it in a simplistic way, because most people don't know what you know. And if you wrongfully infer that other people have the knowledge, the experience, and the intellect that you have, you're going to speak above their head. So we need to make it simple, easy to understand. And that's why so many of you, us included here, are using the fundability score analysis, that 0 to 6 that we talked about a moment ago. As far as picking it up from the ground zero, if you're wanting to be one of our distribution partners, one of our educators, it's a very similar process, regardless if you're helping someone solve their problem by purchasing a shelf corporation or by us helping them build a fundable business through the 4-week. It starts with one simple pre-qualification question. Are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? It's not what's your credit score or how long's your business been around. It's this question. So if you start your conversations with this question, it is very effective. Now, some of you have started to skip this question. Let's take Greg. Let's see if Greg's on. Greg took our advice. Last week we had a training and we said, hey, go out to loan brokers, MCA brokers, and others in the lending space and educate them about what we do, how we create fundable businesses, and ask to receive their denials, their declines. Because loan brokers, banks, MCA brokers, everyone in the business funding space, they have some people that don't qualify, what we'll call imperfect candidates. Well, that's who we're here to help. And so Greg has a great testimonial of that. He did that, if I have this correct, he approached 2 MCA brokers last week, and the first one has already given him a list of over 1,000 declines. So through one referral relationship in the first week since we've been talking about this, Greg has applied that and has over 1,000 leads. So I would encourage you all to consider that as well. But normally we need to determine if they're looking for funding. Now, Greg doesn't have to really take that step because he's getting a steady flow, as I understand, of leads from someone that is from people, entrepreneurs that are looking for funding but didn't yet qualify. But that's step number 1. We have a protocol to assess small businesses, and you'll find that on our nonprofit website. If you're not familiar with that, you should get familiar with it. And we've had trainings on it as well where we've role played, but it's not difficult. There's 6 questions, and the higher the score, the better, as I mentioned. To have a fundable business, it takes 6 out of 6. So if you're not really good at doing the analysis of small businesses, I encourage you to get more familiar with it, because that's what's going to allow you to become relevant to the prospect. Because again, most small businesses are going to say yes to this, but it's this step that makes you relevant. So with that, then we're down to, okay, we're here to solve your problem. We've had separate sessions where we talk about business plans. One of the most important areas of a business plan, if you were trying to go for funding, is to define the problem in the marketplace that your business addresses and how you solve that. Well, if we look at this from an academic perspective, the problem that you and I solve is helping people have a fundable business. And the way that we do that is by helping them either buy a fundable business shelf corporation, or to help them build one over 4 weeks using the 4-week process. So we can help everyone through one of those 2. We did make an exciting announcement yesterday that we're going to offer these shelf corporations for free. Now, there's some asterisk around free because it's important to understand how it's free. There is a cost to receive the shelf corporation, but it's reimbursed in full. So at the end of the day, it's free, but there is a cost. So let's go through that. So with the problem that we're solving, which is to create a fundable business, we know that we can assess where they're at. We know that we can help them with the buy or build. I think what you're going to find is that the majority of people would rather have a shelf corporation so they could immediately qualify for funding. So let's go ahead and make this larger and dig into this. And again, if anyone has questions, comments, concerns, feel free to type those into the Q&A. It's like a chat box. This flyer, we're happy to provide to you free of charge. Of course, it's editable, and you'll put your information. You'll put your information here on bottom to direct them towards your landing page, your phone number, your email, whatever it is you want to direct them to. But we call it the Fundable Shelf Corporation program, fast and easy access to business funding. The key is what's included in the Shelf Corporation is what is needed to have a fundable business. So we provide them an entity, which means a corporation, and an EIN. Now, again, I understand that you may run into clients that say, well, I don't need that. I already have an LLC, or I already have a corporation. I already have an entity. Well, that's fine. Is it fundable? So if it's been around, have you been filing tax returns? Have you been doing your state filings? Is it in good standing? Because just because you have an entity doesn't mean that it's fundable. Well, when they get a shelf corporation from us, from you as a reseller, it is fundable. So they get the entity and the EIN. It's filed and in good standing with the Secretary of State. All of our shelf corporations are set up as a business management consultant. That's a great industry code for funding. So this would be an example where someone might say, well, no, that's not what I do. That's not what I want to do. Great. Then we'll help you build a fundable business. But if you want turnkey, that's when we'd use a shelf corporation. And of course, the purchaser, the client, would be 100% owner. Normally, to have a fundable business, we need to have a business plan. The business plan outlines, again, who we are and what we do, who our target market is, our financial projections, and so forth. So if we're going to help a client build that, we can certainly do so, and that's through the 4-week funding program, or they can have one already created for a business management consulting business included. We know that the address of the business matters. It's very naive. It's frankly incorrect to think that the address doesn't matter. If we're trying to get a business loan, we shouldn't be using a home address. We shouldn't be using a post office box. We shouldn't be using a shared address. What we need to use is a unique commercial address. And so that's one of the things that we include in the Shelf Corporation is a unique commercial address. And then, of course, mail forwarding needs to be included, because what happens? The mail for the business comes to that address, and then we need to forward it. So we also provide a business website. Most lenders are going to require that the borrower have a website. Doesn't need to be a fancy one, doesn't need to be extravagant, but it needs to state what the business does and who they are and their contact information. So, of course, with the Shelf Corporation, since we know that that's needed, we do provide that, including the hosting and the SSL certification. Also, financials. Now, when we get to financials, this is an important part of business fundability, but it's a bit more complicated than what it may first seem. Consider that there's 2 types of business financials. There's historical, what has happened in the past up to current, and then there's projections going forward. So 2 types of financials. Today going backward, tomorrow going forward. So both of those are important, and we provide both of those for the Shelf Corporation clients. One of the areas that we often see is that a balance sheet is often an overlooked element. A balance sheet is important. It shows the assets and liabilities of the business. Now, it's very common for us to hear, and I don't want to ever be rude, but I'll often stop someone when they start speaking with erroneous or illogical facts. So if you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, they'd say, oh, well, balance sheet doesn't matter if it's a new business. That's bullshit. That's wrong. That's financial illiteracy. You can soften it up, but you need to stop them and say, no, it is relevant. Well, it's a brand new business if that's what they have, or it's a month old or 2 months old, whatever it is. That doesn't count. They're wrong. But see, no one's taught them what you're teaching them. So they think, oh, a balance sheet's not relevant for a new or a newer business. It is, because the balance sheet shows what collateral that the borrower is able to pledge. So when individuals get a Shelf Corporation, we provide them the financials, but on that balance sheet, we will add 100,000. Now, keep in mind, you can't, this isn't a game of Monopoly. You can't just make shit up and put it on paper and say, oh, here it is. It has to be true. It has to be accurate. It has to be legal. And so we actually will, and it's in writing and we do it every day. We will transfer $100,000 to them to put on their balance sheet so they have collateral. And well, actually, that's the next bullet here. And then sometimes you're going to run into entrepreneurs that life happens and their personal credit's not so strong. Not all lenders look at the creditworthiness of the business owner, but some do. And so because of that, we went ahead and packaged that in. So if anyone needs the credit sweep, that's where our attorneys go in and block the derogatory items. That's included for free. So hopefully what you can see is that you and I have a remarkable opportunity to go help small businesses legally and ethically qualify for funding in a nicely packaged approach. So this is called the buy. They would buy this from you. You would be a reseller. Doesn't cost you anything to be a reseller. You get to pick the price. Thus, you get to pick your markup, your profit, and it's a turnkey business. If they don't want a shelf corporation, that's okay. Then we will help them build a fundable business. The checklist doesn't change. It's just we're going to help them build it for their individual business versus it already existing. Who has questions, comments, concerns on the difference between the buy or the build? We didn't cover the two phases, so let me address that. And if you can type your questions in, Jeff has one. I'll get to yours in just a second, Jeff. So it is important to break this process down into two phases. And so often people don't, and that's a mistake. The first phase is we need to have a fundable business, whether we buy one or build one, doesn't matter. We need to have a fundable business. Then we go to funding. What I know is a lot of people, they don't give a shit about number one. They wish it didn't exist. No, let's just go to funding. Well, you don't go to funding if you don't have a fundable business. So if there's one critical element that you and I need to teach the marketplace more than anything else, it's this. You need to have a fundable business first. What does that mean? Well, essentially, it's the checklist here. And we can either help you accomplish that by building a fundable business, or you can buy one that's already ready to go. Then we can go to funding. I did mention that the shelf, staying on there, get rid of that. I did mention that we can provide the shelf corporations for free. It's important to understand that proposition. And what that means is that they would pay you, you'd be a reseller, didn't cost anything. They would buy a shelf corporation from you. You decide the price, you decide your profit, and then we would reimburse that after they complete the funding. So that's how that works. Money topics, the normal wholesale is $10,000 to get a shelf corporation. Most of you are selling these at right about $15,000. So wholesale is $10,000. You sell it at whatever you want, normally $15,000. So the difference is your profit, of course. You're making about $5,000 for each shelf corporation you resell. We can facilitate financing for that. If they want financing, they're going to pay $1,000 deposit down to you. So you get paid today. You keep half of that, send half of it to us. That goes towards the purchase price. Then we'll facilitate financing for the rest. So that puts money in your pocket right away. Timeline, people always ask us timeline, and that's fair. So day one, they purchase the shelf corporation from you, the reseller. We need 7 days to provide the deliverables. And the reason for that should be obvious, right? So this business right now, it's not in their name. It's not in their name. So we need to get it in their name. So we need about 7 days to process this. And then literally by day 8, we can go to funding. And then this is our website with more information. So let's go ahead and start addressing your questions. So Jeff has a question. What if it's a home-based business? Well, let's think about what a home-based business is. I have an office. I'm in my office now at my desk, but anyone could work from home. I mean, uh, you take so many companies through the pandemic that allowed people to work from home. Did that make it a home-based business? No, because the quote unquote official address of the business was a true commercial address. That's what there needs to be. We had an inspection yesterday, of course, we passed. So when you have a real business address, it's credible and it's the address of record. But that doesn't mean that, Jeff, you couldn't work from your Scooby-Doo underwear at home in the back bedroom. So if we want business funding, we do need to have a business address, and we provide that for free in the Shelf Corporation. But that doesn't prevent them from working wherever they want. All right, Mr. Gibson asked about shelf corporations in the industry they're in. Well, a shelf corporation means that it's pre-packaged and turnkey. The reason that we form all of our shelf corporations, Mr. Gibson, in SIC code 8742 is it's generic. Because remember, you could go form a business today through us or on your own, whatever, but it doesn't preclude you from doing whatever you want as long as it's legal. So their SIC code might say business management consulting, but they also might do real estate on the side, or they might sell automobiles on the side, or develop software on the side. So the SIC code is what the world has them categorized as, but that doesn't limit the services that they provide. I think, Mr. Gibson, you would agree that it makes sense legally and ethically to pick an industry code that is the most fundable. Well, that's what we've done. So I say this respectfully. I think you're picking an element of the package that's irrelevant to our ability to help the client achieve their goals. So even if they wanted to offer a church, if they wanted to operate as a church, they can still operate as a church, but this would be their industry code. If they wanted to open a strip club, the other end of the continuum, they could do that, but this would be their industry code. All right, so Bill's got the next question. So yes, he's asking about the guaranteed funding. So phase one are these deliverables. This is not funding. This is getting preparation for funding, right? That's why I broke this down. Phase two is funding. And so Bill's asking about guarantees, and Bill's right. If they use our shelf corporation, we guarantee a minimum of $100K in funding. That's in writing, guaranteed. So they would buy the shelf corporation from you if that's what you want to offer and that's what they want to buy. If not, we can just help them build. Remember, we have the buy versus build proposition. But if they want to buy, they'll pay you for the shelf corporation bill. So you determine the price. Most of you are going at $15,000. We'll get that transferred over the next 7 days, and then we'll apply for funding. We guarantee them a minimum of $100,000 in funding. If they use our funding, which they don't have to, but if they use our funding, then we will reimburse the cost of the shelf corporation. Bill's follow-up question is, how long does it take to actually get the funding? And that's a great point. So let's go down to the timeline. So we control when we apply for the funding. We have a software it's a lender match software. So it takes the mitigating circumstances of the business and directs us where we should go for funding. If we're using a standard plan like this, funding is normally going to be less than 30 days. But if it's the larger that it is, the more complicated that it is, it could take longer to get funding. But on average, if we're using the standard package, we should be funded in less than 30 days. Thank you, Bill, for those questions. AJ says he's interested in a strip club. Well, there you go. Doug says about amount of funding. Okay, great. So we're building a structure that is fundable. So in other words, we're ready to go for applying after day 8. We're including $100,000 of collateral for that. As far as if they want more than 100,000 of funding, that's fine. We can work with them for a larger amount. But you're right in understanding our guarantee is for a minimum of 100. So 100 is what we're going to go on record and guarantee. Could we pursue more than that? Absolutely. But 100 is what's guaranteed. Bill then asked about the loan terms. That's great. So we are not the lender. So let's go back to the 2 phases. Don't make any mistake. We're not a bank. We're not a credit union. We're not an alternative lender. We're what's called technical advisors. So we do 2 things. We help clients create a fundable business, either by buying or building a fundable business, and then we facilitate, if they want us to go to funding. The funding is made by funders, by lenders, banks, credit unions, alternative lenders. We don't get a power of attorney to pretend to be the client. They don't get stuck with some high interest loan. They will get the offers and then they will pick from the offers that they want. If they like the offer, they accept it. If they don't like the offer, they can decline that. Most clients will get multiple offers. So with that being said, the terms of the loan will come down to the lender. It's actually illegal for us to say, oh, they'll get a 3% loan, because we can't guarantee that. We're not the lender. So we have to stay in our lane. So our primary part of the value proposition is that we're going to help them have a fundable business, which is needed. Then we can turn around, if they would like, and help them go to funding. We guarantee a minimum of 100,000 in funding. And from that, then we'll offer to reimburse the cost of the Shelf Corporation. There is a cost, a performance fee, if they have us do the funding, and that's important to them to know. So there's just like a realtor, right? You can't go out and hire a realtor for free and they're going to sell your house. They're going to charge a commission. If we're going to facilitate the funding, then there's going to be a performance fee, and that's shared with you. And actually, if you're one of our referral partners, you actually get to pick what that performance fee is. So you couldn't really say that it's too high or too low, because you're the one choosing it. That's our concept. We call it white label partners. So that allows you to go out to the marketplace under your branding. So you wouldn't use our information on the flyer, you would use yours. You wouldn't use our information on the contract. We provide you the contract template, you edit it, and you're going out to the marketplace with yours. And on average, you're making 15,000 gross income up front. On average, you're making 5,000 profit up front. And then on the back end, off of the funding, it could be a lot more, depending upon what you want to charge the performance fee to be. Let's say that you wanted to make 10 points off the back end. Well, 10 points off of 100,000 would put another 10 points in your pocket. Maybe you want to charge more than that. And of course, a lot of clients get more than 100,000. This is just the minimum that we guarantee, so they're not wasting their time. So here's where we're at, right? We're here to educate, to help people understand. If you want funding for a business, you must have a fundable business. We can help them by either helping them buy a fundable business shelf corporation or helping them build. You're paid either way if you're one of our distribution partners. And then from there, you see the mechanics. I think this is a very transparent, very legal, very effective approach. There's more information about the shelf corporations on Business Paralegal. Anyone have questions? Anything? Susie's asking for our number. This is our main number. It's answered live Mondays through Fridays, and you're welcome to call. And if you call after hours, it's okay. It's just you'll get voicemail, but it's answered live during the week. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Hopefully you better understand what a shelf corporation is. You better understand the buy versus build proposition. You understand how easy it is for you to make money. And I see Gilbert's asking about what if they don't have 15,000? Well, remember, Gilbert, we said that they can do financing. If they don't have 15,000, they can pay you 1,000 down. You keep half of that, 50%. You send us the other half. Now that's applied to their purchase price, and then we'll go facilitate financing for the rest. So that gets at least 500 in your pocket today to make it worth your time. We'll facilitate the financing, get them financing for the rest. That will get you paid the rest of the money that you deserve on the front end, and then we'll be able to, in about a week, go to funding. Make sense? It's a great deal, and you can look up shelf corporations. There's others that offer shelf corporations. Most of the time, they're much higher than this. I don't know of anyone else that offers them for free the way that we do. And I don't know of any others that are providing the $100,000 the way that we are including. So the value proposition that you and I offer is, I believe, exponentially better than available in the marketplace. It's legal, it's effective, there's no risk to the client. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Appreciate your time. Bye.